Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing again something a little bit differently with some movie reviews slash recommendations, as this is something that I was really interested in, especially when I was younger, like junior high school, and even later on to the years. I was a big movie fan. I was always renting them and watching them and learning about them, and it was just like a way for me to like find something to do with my time. It was just like I was always trying to just like fill up my time, like learning, trying to do something. Like not so much now anymore because I realize you don't need as much like stimulus and entertainment as I used to think. So it's now more about like actually building and value building and learning and exchange. But it's still something that I was keen on, so I'm going to share a bit about it. And I'm going to mix that in with another interest of mine, believe it or not, which is history and learning about history, like military history, like empire history, like world history. How did things come together? And so this is going to be kind of the two of them come together. Movies and historical movies. Just a few that I've watched recently or ones that I want to talk about. Cool. I wrote a few down. So we're going to start with one of my favorite movies, an absolute classic. I think it was made in like 1989 or something, by Oliver Stone, the legendary Platoon. Vietnam War movie with Charlie Sheen, amongst others, William Dafoe, even some random guys that you're going to recognize, such as a super young Johnny Depp, who slid into the platoon. So it's a wicked movie based upon, to some degree, Oliver Stone's own experience in Vietnam. It's part of his, I guess, like a 3-part kind of Vietnam War saga that he made, including Platoon, then Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise, which was based on another book by a guy who served over in Vietnam and was wounded. And then I think the other one, I think it's called Heaven and Earth or something. I think it's more of like a love story or something. I'm not really familiar that much with it. I think I saw it once when I was younger, but anyway, Platoon's the one, man. Platoon's legendary. It's absolute classic. Wicked. I just watched it like 2 nights ago, I think. Man, it's cool as ever, There's some totally iconic and classic scenes, such as at one point Barnes is like he's kind of like the bad guy in a way. He's like not even the bad guy, but he's like the like stern like guy in the platoon, kind of the stern leader who runs stuff. And he goes, and he goes in to see all the guys in the platoon, and they're all like smoking weed, like chilling out in the little bunker. And he comes, he's drinking Jack Daniels, and he's like, what are you guys doing in here, trying to escape from reality? I don't need that shit. And then he looks out in this classic fucking line. He goes, I am reality. I fucking love that. But man, there's all kinds of awesome classic scenes in it. You need to check it out. Platoon, Charlie Sheen, Oliver Stone, William Dafoe, all kinds of guys are in there. I think Forrest Whitaker's in there. You'll recognize other guys too. It's classic. Check it out right away, immediately. Drop everything. Get on top of that. Let me look at my list here because there's a few others that I wrote down. One that's not really a historical movie, but oh yeah, here we go. I got them. Okay, but I'll talk about this one first because it's not really a historical movie. It's actually like a future movie. Children of Men. Check this movie out. It's a few years old. It came out like maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago at least. But it's so awesome. It's based in the future, like just a few years, like 10 or 20 years in the future, in England, and it's like the human race has stopped producing children, but it's legit. Like, I'm telling you right now, it's a really cool movie. The guy who directed it also directed Pan's Labyrinth, which is a really, like, inventive, cool movie. It's just really inventive and cool and just really wicked. A few actors are in it. Clive Owen. Is it Michael Caine or Michael Caine? The guy who played Alfred in Batman. And then the girl, I forget her name, but she's like a famous actress. She's cool too. So check that movie out. Children of Men. Absolutely. I think it's on Netflix. These are two totally legendary films. Platoon, Children of Men. Check them. I've seen them both multiple times because they're so cool. Okay. Now we're going to get on to a few more obscure, like historical, military kind of war movies that I'm going to talk about. Ones that I have written down here. I may even throw in a few other ones I didn't write down. Who knows? Anything can happen. It's the internet. It's YouTube. Living here in the world of freedom, 21st century. Okay. So check it out. I got here Stalingrad. Okay? Stalingrad. For those of you who are not familiar with Stalingrad, the city formerly known as Stalingrad, now I think it's called Volgograd. It's in Russia. Okay? Deep into the heartland of Russia on, I guess, the Volga River, which was an absolute key strategic river and point in Russia, particularly during the Second World War. It is the point, potentially, where the entire German war effort came to an absolute halt. It is a synonymous word with the fucking abysmal, cataclysmic nature of the war in the East, anyway, in the Second World War. It's where the Wehrmacht, the German army and military, was ground to a halt, devastation, where Russia kind of got their shit a bit together and was able to push back. Anyway, it's an endlessly interesting topic on its own, with that I'm interested in. I always watch like documentaries and read books on this. I relate with it. That's a topic for another video that maybe I can get into. Some of the other videos probably speak to this, like my own personal life experiences. Like, I can relate to Stalingrad. I dig it. Like, in some ways, I need it. I'm like, I need Stalingrad, the battle, the war, to exist so that I can relate. That's for another day. But yeah, so there's a couple movies about it that I put on here. One is Stalingrad, the 1990s version. Okay, it was a German movie. It's in German language. Obviously, the German people needed this fucking movie, although it didn't come out till the 90s. But the actors are all like German dudes and stuff. But it's really good. Okay, this version is really good. It's called Stalingrad. It was made in the 90s. I'm sure you can find it. I think it's on YouTube illegally. But anyway, you can track it down. It's really good. Like, you should definitely check it out. It starts I think it starts there in like they're like in the south of France, like recovering and like relaxing, and they just slowly just head east into the abyss, into the hopeless nature of the war on the Eastern Front. And it's totally cool. Like, it's hardcore. It's legit. There's interesting aspects to it. The order of the army starts falling apart. The breakdown in command, like the fucking human nature comes apart. Like, this is an awesome portrayal to some degree. So I recommend it for sure. So that's Stalingrad, the 1990s version, the German one. Okay, now, in I think 2013, Russia produced a Stalingrad movie. Okay, and it's literally called Stalingrad. Okay, I think it's actually called Stalingrad 3D, because I guess it was originally in 3D. This movie has some cool points. It has some really cool aspects to it, okay? such as some of the scenes in the movie, like even at the beginning when the Russian soldiers are like crossing the Volga, and it's the action is pretty. It's like kind of stylized, almost like 300 style, where it's like slow motion machine guns and like blood and stuff, which is cool. Like to some degree, I think that's necessary if you're talking about a combat film. Like you almost can't even put it on film. It needs to just be like a horror movie. That's how I see things, because I've seen a lot of like military movies and stuff, and to me, you almost can't even get it like aggressive and horrible enough. Like it just needs to be the worst possible thing imaginable, and then somehow that's your reality. That's the warfare. That's what I think it's supposed to be like. But anyway, so some of it's cool. There are some cool scenes. So for that alone, it's kind of worth checking out. Like it's worth checking it out. It's in Russian, which I clearly do not understand Russian, and I do not get it. I think that there's a like English dubs, but I would just get the Russian version and get the subtitles. It gets mixed in with some there are some stories about some German soldiers too that kind of mixes, and it's not perfect. It's not a perfect film. I think there's a little bit of like patriotism, like Russian patriotism in there, which is fine, but yeah. Stalingrad 3D. I'm pretty sure it's called. It came out in like 2013. Check it out. At least aspects of it. At least watch it, and like you can fast forward through some parts if it doesn't quite get you. Some of the stories. There's like stories about the Russians, like the guys are like they find some woman and they try to help her. But anyway, that's a movie. But now I want to slide over to this another Stalingrad movie. This is how many Stalingrad movies there are. People don't even know this. I'm like the first person ever on YouTube to come up with these like obscure references to like random foreign war movies about Stalingrad. Should we get hundreds of subscribers for this video? Okay. It's called, this one I really do have to look at the name of it, because it's random and I don't even know really. I definitely am not even going to pretend to pronounce it. It's in German. I don't know what the German thing is. But anyway, it's called Stalingrad, Dogs, Do You Want to Live Forever? And then I think there's even like brackets that say like Inferno or something. And anyway, the German version is that. It's like Hunds, blah, 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 Do You Want to Live Forever? Whatever. This movie was made in like the 50s, I think. I literally think it was made in like the like mid 50s, probably early 50s, which is crazy. At the latest, like 1960, but I think it was like the mid to early 50s. This is crazy. That the German film industry, with whatever was going on, this is like 5 years after the fucking largest cataclysmic fucking war in history of humankind took place. They're pumping out movies. They pumped out a movie about this like absolute cataclysmic war or battle that took place. Okay? So again, it's from the German point of view, and it's interesting. It's an interesting movie. It follows like this, I guess one guy in particular. He goes out to the east into Stalingrad, would eventually become known as the Stalingrad Pocket, because it became surrounded by Russians and it was isolated. And then it was being like supplied by air, supposedly, but didn't get enough resources, obviously. But it's interesting, like, and this guy, again, it has a little bit to do with this, like, I think some kind of like Ukrainian woman that he meets, who's like, and then she gets like employed by the Russians, and he kind of meets her and tries to free her and stuff, which is similar. The same kind of storyline actually happens in that Stalingrad 3D movie from Russia, so they must have watched this movie and known. But I watched this movie actually a while ago. It was like several months ago, so I kind of forget it. I may have to watch it again just to like really grasp what was going on there. Again, it's like from the 1950s, so there's no like hardcore like up-to-date special effects and like bullets exploding and stuff and blood everywhere. It's not really like that, but it still does like a cool job of explaining what's going on. And I just think it's interesting that Germany put out a movie about that topic at that time. It's nuts. Which is an interesting like time and period, especially for Germany, and especially even now, when you start to see, like, I won't get too much into, like, the politics of now, and, like, the geopolitics of now, but you can see where it's still directly related to what happened then. Like, the way that things are going now, on, like, the so-called Eastern Front now, of, like, the borders of, like, Russia and NATO, are very still similarly taking place, even now. It's really fucked. And our society doesn't even show that. Like, the mainstream doesn't even see that. They're like, nope, that's not happening. But really, if you look at it, it's pretty clear. It's fucked up. But anyway, I'll maybe make another video if I get 2 comments. I will make a video about that. My last video, the one I did on when I reviewed Jocko's book, I got 1 comment. So I'm still trying to get 2 comments. Anyway, so that movie, Stalingrad, Dogs Do You Want to Live Forever? That was an interesting little entry. Obscure. Okay, I'm going to keep going, because that's what I do. Here, coming up next, is a very, very obscure and I guess underrated, because I don't hear much about it, but amazingly high quality, pretty hardcore, which I love hardcore shit. Hardcore Russian movie made in like during the Soviet Union. I think it was made in like the 80s. Okay? Like during the Soviet Union. I think they put a lot of money into it. I think. But it's hardcore. It's called Come and See. Come and See. It stars this like little like 14-year-old kid or something. I think he's in like Belarus. Anyway, part of Russia, part of the Soviet Union. And it's just like, he's just there. He's just like a little villager. He's just sort of living in a village. It's like just the German army is just like invading. They're just invading. And he's just this kid. He's like, no idea they just invade. And it's like, they're like aliens, man. They're like invaders from another planet. Again, this is a Russian-Soviet movie made like during the 80s. During the Soviet Union. And so it's like their opinion of like, yo, this is what the fuck happened to us. And, dude, it's awesome. Like, it's in Russian, so you gotta eat the subtitles, but it just shows this little kid where he goes back to his village, and it's just like, he's like this poor little village, and he finds a rifle. He's with his buddy, like, digging for rifles in the sand, and he finally finds one, and he gets linked up with, like, a partisan group, and he's in the woods. It's crazy. He's, like, crawling through, like, bogs and stuff, and then he gets, like, linked up with these partisans. And there's just incredible scenes, honestly. It's some of the most incredible, like, scenes of the Eastern Front, I think. Like, on film. It's amazing. Like, there's, like, the Germans just roll into these towns. Like, it's unbelievable. And they're just, like, rounding people up and, like, putting them in hoses and lighting the hoses on fire. And it doesn't even at all feel like... Even the way nowadays people are always just like, Nazis are bad, like the Nazis are bad, you're so bad, which we already know. Like, we already know that. Like, everyone knows that. We all know what happened. The Holocaust, the war, we know that. So they're not just like preaching it and shaming it. They're just like, it really just feels like they're just like explaining what happened. It's like, yep, this is how it went. They just rolled in, rounded people up, and burned the fucking people down, burned the villages down. It's legit. And, spoiler alerts to some degree, but it doesn't even matter. You're going to have to watch it anyway, because it's fucking high-quality shit, man. And then, like, they capture some of the Germans at the end and stuff, and, like, just the way that then their reaction to them and stuff, you're just like, yeah, that's pretty much right. Like, it's cool, man. Apparently, I read a little bit online. I was like struggled to find any information about it, but I guess they used like live ammunition in the film, in the movie, and this is in Soviet Russia, as you can imagine. And apparently, like the little kid, they just like dragged him out of school, and we're just like, "You're in this movie now," and he was like, he was like scarred by the movie. I think it's crazy. So anyway, there's an option. There's an option for you. Check that out. Okay. Those are actually all the movies I had written down, but as I was talking, I came up with a few other ones that were in my mind that I want to talk about too. Okay. Another one is, Uh, all these movies, I guess, I'll keep on like the Eastern Front. Uh, this is a mini series, okay, called Generation War. Okay, it's a German mini series that I guess was going to be like a kind of like a answer to the American like Band of Brothers. So they call it Generation War, and it's like a 5 or 6 part series. It's available online through some websites. You can find it if you check it out. It's definitely worth watching. Okay, I'm definitely gonna say it's worth watching. You want to check it out. Okay, it is like a modern piece of like somewhat mainstream. Like there's a little, it leaks into some mainstream kind of mentalities on the war and stuff, but not too much. Like it's still cool. It follows like a group of friends who like just the war started and they're like, what should we do? Well, we're gonna go east. We're gonna join. But it's cool. Like I think that there's 2 brothers that are kind of it follows, and yeah, I would check it out. Like it's not comparable to Band of Brothers, but it's still worth seeing. And I like to see anytime Germany is like trying to like come to grips with the war for themselves. Like I like that. I think there needs to be more of that. Like them trying to be like, what in the hell was going on? Like how can we make sense of it? And more like resolutely in like what really, how did that affect people? Because in some ways I don't think that's happened. But anyway, it's interesting. So that was a movie, Generation War. Let's see. Okay. Those are probably all the ones that I'm gonna talk about today. If anyone has any other ones that you want me to talk about or anything, you can comment, like I said. That would be sweet. Yeah, okay. For now, that's it. Hit that like button, yo. Alright, peace out.